are out here in South Hayward, California for the 37-year anniversary date of the disappearance of 9-year-old Michaela Garecht. She went missing on November 19th, 1988 when her and her friend Katrina rode their scooters to a local market 2 blocks away from her house. I'm over here at Sohey Park in South Hayward, and we are going to visit the memorial bench placed just 2 years ago right here in this brand new park to remember Michaela. This area has changed a lot since 1988. I went to school not far from here in Union City. We are very close to the Union City-Hayward border. And all of this was not like this. This was empty land. Now there are new apartments and condominiums around here. It's very pretty. I do have to say that. I actually used to roller skate directly across the street where this complex is right there. That is where Valley Vista skating rink was. It's also a place where Michaela Garecht would go roller skating as well. It's kind of one of those things in the late 80s where roller skating was, Friday, Saturday night events. It was a fun time. Right here in this park is a memorial bench that was placed in 2023. Actually, I think a couple days after that anniversary, the 35-year disappearance date of Michaela. And since her body has never been recovered, Hayward did place this bench here in honor of not only Michaela, but her mother Sharon. States, in loving memory of Michaela Joy Garecht and Sharon Murch. God, this was such a huge story. I was in 5th grade at Bernard White Middle School, just a block away from Rainbow Market where she was disappeared from. She went to a school not far, just a few blocks the other way in the housing area of where I went to school at her elementary school. Rainbow Market was a very popular destination for kids to go to after school to get snacks and drinks. She actually went there on a Saturday morning, the first day of Thanksgiving break in 1988, and that's where everything happened. And this bench is a memorial, not far from Rainbow Market, which is now a different kind of supermarket. Yeah, when this happened, it was huge, like extremely huge news for the community. Everybody was on their toes, everybody was looking, everybody was scared. Even, God, it was maybe a few months later that Robert Stack and Unsolved Mysteries came out to Hayward, which was completely shocking for a show that was that big in 1980 to come out and do a story on a local child who went missing. And I remember going there that day. I rode my bike with some of my friends because I lived maybe 2 to 3 miles away on the other side of my middle school. And we heard that Unsolved Mysteries was coming. We rode our bikes there and we watched from a distance as they reenacted what happened. We saw the actors, we saw the car that was the description of, well, I'll get into that a little bit later, but there were 2 different cars that initially were described as being the suspect's vehicle. We saw the actor who played the suspect, and it was just, God, it's in my brain like it just happened yesterday. It was wild to see that and then to watch that on TV. Literally, it was like a week later. They went and edited that and got that out to the public and the country that fast. It was so quick. I remember that like it was yesterday. But here's the memorial bench for Michaela and her mother Sharon. This is where people can come and pay their respects to the amazing 9-year-old girl that did not deserve to go missing. Okay, we're gonna make the short drive. It's about 2 large blocks, I would say. 2 large blocks south from where we're at. Not very far, but we're gonna take the drive down to Rainbow Market and check out where it all happened. Sitting just across the street from Chapel of the Chimes Memorial Park here in Hayward, California, is what is now, on this busy street, Mexico Super, which used to be Rainbow Market. The building is identical. It's changed paint color and it's now a Mexican supermarket, but it used to be just Rainbow Market. It's the casual, everyday market you would go to for snacks and food and whatever grocery items you wanted. I'm gonna have to get away from the street though because it's really loud over here. So I'm gonna do some of this video a little bit closer, but here's the wide shot of what used to be Rainbow Market. In 1989, this used to be the primary entrance to Rainbow Market. There was an entrance on the other side as well, which is what they use now as the primary, and this one's gated off. But right here, where the shopping cart is, was where Michaela and her friend Katrina parked their scooters on a Saturday morning in November of 1988. Went inside to get some snacks and some soda after being given permission from their parents to go ahead and grab some on their first day of Thanksgiving break. And when they walked out, that's when everything changed. After they walked out of the supermarket, there's two different stories. And I'm not sure which one is true. I think the latter will be the true one. First story is they walked out and they forgot their scooters were parked right there, which I find that hard to believe because you walk out of that store and you would have seen your scooters right there. Now, the girls did live over this way, down that street to the right, behind those trees. So they lived over there, so they would have walked directly towards where I'm at. And I just find it hard to believe that they would have forgot their scooters were parked right outside the door. Story goes, they forgot, they walked away for a little bit, then they remembered they had their scooters, and then they came back to get them, and that's when they noticed Michaela's was not there anymore. Now, the original stories we all heard from all our friends and even the witnesses back in 1988, like I said, I went to school a block away from here, so we were all over this story when it happened, being that 1988, I was 11 years old, she was 9 years old, her friend was 8 years old. So being that she was a grade younger and we were all, from the same area, we were very much interested and intrigued and scared and just worried about everything going on, and everybody was trying to figure out what happened and we're looking for this guy. So the original story is that when they walked out, and this was shown on Unsolved Mysteries back in 1988, when they walked out, they realized that only one scooter was there. One scooter was there right where that shopping cart is, and they couldn't find the other one. They walked out towards this way, towards me, towards the camera, and they started looking around, and that's when they noticed her scooter was laying in the middle of the street, right here by this third pillar, right around this area. Now this parking lot has been repaved, so the parking, it's the same direction, but they are a little bit off because this was not there back then. That was parking back there, and now it's a storage area for the supermarket. Now, the bike was moved, the scooter was moved to right around here, laying on the ground out in the street. When she walked over to pick it up, she reached down and had her back to the wall, back to the car, reached down, picked up her scooter, and as she did that, that's when the kidnapper then jumped out of the car, grabbed her from behind, threw her in this back seat, and drove off this way. Now this house is the exact same, it just updated paint, but it looks exactly the same from the Unsolved Mysteries video when they did that story. And he would have drove out of this parking lot that way, and then he disappeared, which is a little weird because I would think he would go this way, back out to the main road, because when you go back into the houses, it gets a little bit of a maze. It's a little bit of a maze back. There's no direct straight streets. Lots of turns, couple dead ends, couple reroutes to the left or the right. So it gets to be very much like a maze back there, but he could have. Either way, once that happened, her friend kind of paused. You gotta remember, Katrina was only 8 years old at this time. So you can imagine how shocked you would be and not knowing what to do. But she ran back inside. She went to the first, checker at the stand and told them what happened, screaming, crying. They then contacted Hayward Police. Hayward Police arrived on the scene actually pretty quickly. But the initial story and the panic that Katrina was describing, I think she mistakenly gave the wrong color car. She said it was a burgundy sedan, four-door sedan, burgundy, when in actuality it was more like a dark tan or a brownish color. So they were looking for the wrong car right away. The car that she had initially described was a guy that they seen inside and was parked over here, but they actually dismissed that and realized, oh, she described the incorrect car when they finally talked to a couple more witnesses that did see the lighter beige or tan color car or light brown color car parked over here. So for about 2 days, the Hayward Police actually let local media, because the story was so big, the description of the car and the description of the person were actually inaccurate for a day or two. Before they made the corrections, and Hayward Police finally put out the correct, there's a lot of traffic on the street still, guys, put out the correct description of the car and a drawing of the kidnapper. And it was quiet for over 30 years. It was quiet until 2020 when a development finally happened. So in 2016, Fremont Police, which is 2 cities south from here, maybe 10 to 15 miles away, they had solved a crime from 1986 where there were 2 women murdered, and they had finally made a DNA match to a guy who was already in prison, and they made a DNA match, got all that, investigation going, and then charged him with that crime. And then they realized that the guy that they had charged was in the area of Hayward constantly with lots of crimes, burglaries, drug charges, all these other things. And so Fremont Police in 2016 reached out to Hayward and gave the name of the suspect that would then be arrested for the kidnapping of Michaela Garecht. Hayward Police were then given the name of David Mish, who was already in jail in Stockton, California for a murder charge from 1989, as well as drug charges and other charges. And he was linked and convicted of 2 murders of 2 women in Fremont that happened in 1986, 2 years before Michaela went missing. Now, the only evidence they really had from the crime scene was a partial palm print that was found on the scooter itself back in 1988. And, obviously technology from fingerprints and things like that, they have advanced tremendously since 1988. And because it was a partial palm print, they had to match it manually. It would not match through a computer. And after 4 years in 2016, on December 21st, 2020, they finally made an arrest when they matched the palm print to the incarcerated David Mish. So the wild thing about David Mish is he was not even on the Hayward Police Department's radar until 2016 when Fremont Police called him. He wasn't even a suspect, which is absolutely crazy to me. And what's even crazier is that David Mish was in jail in the Bay Area and released on November 17th, 1988 from drug charges. That's 2 days before he decided to do this kidnapping. I just can't even fathom that detail. So he was in jail on November 17th, 2 days before he decided to make this kidnapping, and he was let go. I don't know why. I can't find a reason why. I don't know if his sentence was up. I don't know if it was because of overcrowding in the California, systems. But 2 days later, he decided to go and commit this heinous crime. And to this day, even after being charged with the disappearance, he still has not confessed to doing it. Now, he still is alive. He is still incarcerated for multiple life sentences. He will not be getting out. He will end his life in there. And he still has not confessed to the Michaela Garecht crime. Even though he has been charged with it, he is now awaiting trial for that disappearance. As long as I can remember, there's always been some sort of food trucks in this parking lot, even going back to the 80s when I was a child. But coming over here, I wanted to show you this area right here, because this, when they were filming the Unsolved Mysteries episode, they had us stand outside here. So everything was blocked off from there for the driving scene and all through here. And we were able to stand out on this sidewalk, and there were people, I mean, hundreds of people lined up outside on this sidewalk. I remember I was standing right around where this tree is with my bike. I don't remember if the tree was here or not. It was so long ago. But I remember I was standing right around here watching the filming. The entire parking lot was empty, and they had, you know, the prop cars and the actors, and they had like a makeup station thing over here. It was like a trailer over here where they did makeup and whatnot. But they filmed everything right here where this all happened. So I wish there was a grave that I could visit, but unfortunately, like I said, her body has not been found. Doubt it'll ever be found, unfortunately. We'll always hope that it'll be found, so, you know, some kind of peace can come to the entire story. But we did start this day off at the bench where they're memorialized Michaela and her mother, which is, you know, something that needed to be done. It was well overdue. It took 35 years for them to do something, and you know, it's a sad story. It's a big part of my childhood memories. It was probably the most traumatic thing that ever happened to, you know, somebody that I didn't know, but I knew people that knew her, and it was just, God, it was surreal. Like, it was like, what is going on? At 11 years old, it was like, what do you mean a kid is missing? Like, somebody took her? Like, I didn't know that was a thing. You know, we just didn't know that happened. You know, especially in my community, like, it was a very close community, you know, highly Latino. And so, you know, everybody's garages were open to each other. You know, you knew where all the neighborhood kids were at because all our bikes were on, you know, the grass in the front yard. So to see that somebody disappeared like that was just like, we didn't understand. We didn't really get it. And it was scary. Like, it was scary. It was something new to all of us. So yeah, I'm here on the 37th anniversary of the disappearance of Michaela, and you know, thoughts and prayers to her family, prayers to Michaela, and hopefully someday she is found so she can be put to rest properly.